today on his report, and the Democrats weren't happy. But I wanted to focus on one exchange between Durham and Jim Jordan that tells you why you should be happy about what the FBI is doing now, because it mirrors what they did then, with no reform. It's really just a continuation of the same old song and dance. Here's the exchange.
Durham, in the summer of 2016, did our government receive intelligence that suggested Secretary Clinton had approved a plan to tie President Trump to Russia?
Yes.
Was that intelligence important enough for Director Brennan to go brief the President of the United States, the Vice President of the United States, the Attorney General of the United States, and the Director of the FBI?
Yes.
And was that intelligence put then into a memorandum, a referral memorandum?
Yes.
And was that memorandum then given to Director Comey and Agent Strzok?
That's who it was addressed to, yes.
Did Director Comey share that memorandum with the FISA court?
I'm sorry,
Did he share that memorandum with the FISA court? Did Director Comey do that?
I'm not aware of that if he did.
Did he share it with the lawyers preparing the FISA application?
Not to my knowledge.
Did he share it with the agents on the case, working the Crossfire Hurricane case?
No.
Didn't share it with the agents on the case. Can you tell the committee what happened when you took that referral memo and shared it with one of those agents, specifically Supervisory Special Agent number 1?
We interviewed the first supervisor of the Crossfire investigation, the operational person. We showed him the intelligence information. He indicated he had never seen it before. He immediately became emotional, got up and left the room with his lawyer, spent some time in the hallway, came back.
He was ticked off, wasn't he?
Yes.
He was ticked off because this is something he should have had as an agent on the case. Is important information that the director of the FBI kept from the people doing the investigation.
The information was kept from him.
Who's Charles Dolan?
Charles Dolan is a public relations person here in Washington, D.C. He had prior involvement, professional involvement with Russian government, representing Russian government interests. He was a person that was associated with Igor Danchenko.
He was also buddies with the Clintons, wasn't he?
He had held positions when President Clinton was president.
In their campaign advisory to Secretary Clinton's presidential campaign, executive director of the Democrat Governors Association. That's the same Charles Dolan we're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah. And wasn't he also a key source for information in the dossier?
He provided some information that was included in
Ritz-Carlton stuff, the Manafort stuff. In the Crossfire Hurricane investigation and the Mueller investigation, when the FBI interviewed Mr. Dolan, what did he have to say?
To my knowledge, they didn't interview Mr. Dolan.
They didn't interview this guy? Source for the dossier, key information in the dossier, buddies with the Clintons, they didn't talk to him?
No, I mean, we report on that because even Christopher Steele in October 2016 identified Dolan as somebody that might have information.
I find it interesting they didn't talk to him. Were there agents on the case who wanted to talk to Mr. Dolan, Mr. Durham?
Yes.
What happened to analyst number 1? She kept pushing to talk to Mr. Dolan. She was ultimately turned down. What happened to her the day that she was turned down and said, no, we're not talking to Dolan? What happened to her?
At about the same time, she was assigned to a different project.
They moved her. They said, we can't have this. We can't have that. We can't be looking into the Clintons' buddy, a key source for the dossier. They reassigned her. And then what did she do?
She memorialized it.
She entered a memo to the file because she said, at some point, the inspector general is going to want to know this information. I'm going to make it sure it's recorded contemporaneously. She put it in the file. It's crazy. They didn't talk to the key source. They kept key intelligence from the investigators. That's how bad this investigation was. But here's the scary part. I don't think anything has changed. The day your report came out, 5 weeks ago, May 15th, you got a letter, Mr. Durham, addressed to you from the general counsel at the FBI, Mr. Jason Jones, writes you this 6-page letter, and he says, not to worry, everything is fine. It's all been worked out at the FBI. He even says on page 2, he says, had the reforms implemented by current FBI leadership, summarized below, been in place in 2016, failures detailed in your report never would have happened, and he underlines it. He said this would never happen because of the reforms we implemented in 2019 and 2020. And then he says on page 4, one of the specific reforms, he says, FBI executive management has instructed investigations should be run out of the field and not from the headquarters. That statement is not true. 5 weeks ago, the FBI wrote you and said everything has changed when in fact it hasn't, and a statement in there is absolutely false, and we know it's false because 2 weeks ago today, we interviewed Stephen D'Antuono, former head of the Washington field office, Mr. Durham, and here's what he said in his transcript. Head of the Washington field office, when the Trump classified document investigation began, he said, that case was handled differently than I would have expected it to be, than any other cases handled. We learned a lot of stuff from Crossfire Hurricane, that headquarters should not work the investigation. It's supposed to be the field offices. My concern is that the Department of Justice was not following these principles. Nothing is, and that's the thing that scares me the most. Nothing has changed. Mr. Durham, I'm just finished with this. 60% of Americans now believe there's a double standard at the Justice Department. You know why they believe that? Because there is. That has got to change. And I don't think more training, more rules is going to do it. I think we have to fundamentally change the FISA process, and we have to use the appropriations process to limit how American tax dollars are spent at the Department of Justice. I yield back.
I forgot to unmute. Since I forgot to unmute, we just ended up with a no audio situation. I was trying to avoid electronic. I'm going to go back and I'm going to just recast. We have the absurd situation that Jim Jordan just laid out. And the situation is this. There were very few recommendations by Durham. The big lie was that the thing was fixed, that the system was fixed. It wasn't. System wasn't fixed. The system wasn't fixed. It remains the same. It's still a fully operating targeting machine aimed at Donald Trump. And May 15th, we put out a statement that said that there weren't any recommendations to fix this. And that was our big disappointment in the Durham report, is what we hoped to get out of it. We all knew going in that this was messed up. We knew it was a political operation. We knew that before Durham got started. Now, he affirmed what we knew, and that's good. But I was kind of hoping a guy who'd been on the inside would be able to say, hey, here's how you can fix it. And the fact that didn't happen was very disappointing. That's what our statement was on May 15th that I read it when I was muted, unfortunately. But you get down to it, folks. You get down to it, and this is a serious, serious challenge to the fundamental principles of liberty in our country. It's a challenge to the Fourth Amendment, our right to not to be surveilled by our government, and it's a challenge to whether or not we're going to continue to have a justice system that is even and blindfolded, where innocence is assumed, presumed, and guilt has to be proven. In this world, in the world of the Merrick Garland, Eric Holder Justice Department, of the Biden-Obama Justice Department, you are guilty until proven innocent. And they will take information that is exculpatory, that proves that says, wait a second, none of the stuff you think is true is not true. It shows that the charges that have been leveled, that these suspicions are built on false pretenses. They will bury that and make it so it never sees the light of day, because their objective is to convict whoever they target, regardless of truth, with no regard whatsoever for justice. It's a dangerous world. Thank goodness that Jim Jordan had this hearing. Jim Jordan, there's a lot of pieces that are coming out on this. We'll have a couple little videos on it. But if you like what we're doing here, please do this little star thing and share. It's the little mute in the middle. Apologize for that. But bottom line is, people have to be able to get this and just hear, if not, you don't hear anything else but Jim Jordan's impassioned plea at the beginning of this. If they just hear that, they will understand the threat that what's happening at the Department of Justice today presents to freedom for America, not just today, but into the future. Because once freedom is buried, it is very hard to get back. This is Rick Manning, President of Americans for Limited Government. Thank you for tuning in. And we will be back tomorrow with another look at what's happening in Washington, D.C. as we try to unveil the veil that seems to hover over this swamp. I'll look at a couple of statements here. Digital, Susie Sims. I'm just going to do this one because a lot of you sat there and pointed out that the sound was off, and unfortunately I was talking and not reading the comments. But Susie Sims says digital ID attaching your bank account coming soon. Barack Obama a couple of days ago came out and said he wants digital signatures on anything you post. Why does he want digital signatures? Because we want to make sure we don't have misinformation, malinformation, or disinformation under the guise of deep fakes and the like, which are, let's face it, deep fakes are a problem. But he wants to make it so they can say, oh, we're now going to be able to put every single thing you put up on the web, we're going to be able to identify it was you who put it up. Makes it a whole lot easier to round up the usual suspects. It's a whole lot easier to create Chinese credit score systems that say, well, you haven't been a good boy or girl on the internet, on Facebook this month. So rather than the money that you earned, we're only going to let you have a small amount of the money you have, and we're going to restrict your travel until you do better. That's what the social credit score system does. It's what China does. That's what these guys want to do. If it's an idea that comes from Obama, just understand it's a bad one, and it's bad for your freedom. And the fact he's pushing digital signatures is extremely dangerous. So thank you for bringing that up, Susie. It's banana republic since JFK. Well, I didn't used to think so. I'll just say that. They already know. Come on. They know already. Come on. Maybe they do. Maybe they do. I think it's a lot harder to sift through all the information on the internet. It's a whole lot easier to say, okay, well, we're going to basically keyword some stuff. And because we have digital signatures, we're going to be able to pull up, for instance, I'll give you an example. Okay. Let's say somebody was foolish enough to have another rally at the Capitol. Okay. Something coming up. Let's have a big rally at the Capitol. I wouldn't recommend coming, but let's just say you do. Using some pretty basic technology that exists now, you can do kind of digital fencing, geofencing. And geofencing just means you take a specific place on the geospatial map, and you basically pull all the cell phone data off of everybody there, and allows you to communicate with them, and truthfully later on communicate with them about different things. So if you're at a Trump rally, they can geofence it, and then they know everybody's at the Trump rally based on your digital footprint. So let's say you're at a rally at the Capitol, and they geofence it. At that point, they use the digital signatures. They basically take your what they learned that you're there. They take your digital signature, they match it against everything that's happened, everything you ever posted, and anything that they find to be politically correct, wrong, or at all troubling to them because it doesn't agree with their narrative. They then say, "Whoa, we've got probable cause. There's maybe something bad happening here," and as a result, then they can go in and basically arrest everybody and just do a mass arrest. And they'll have, because it expedites the entire information gathering process. That's the challenge here. And when you put a lot of different technologies together like they're doing, it makes it very easy to have a repressive state. And I'm quite honestly, there aren't a whole lot of solutions, except for what we do know is we have to take the FBI and these Justice Department clowns that keep doing this, and we have to identify the people who are doing it. We have to then use the House needs to use the Holman rule to zero out their salaries so they pay a price for doing this. We have to go and after zeroing out their salaries, we have to deny the FBI their access to their new palace they want to build. It'll be bigger than the Pentagon. We'll have massive intelligence capabilities. We have to eliminate their new palace entirely, wipe it off the books. No more discussion. It ends. And we have to have Christopher Wray lose his job. And you have to clean out anybody who's been involved in this and basically clean out the entire crew and start over. And that may mean defunding significant portions of the FBI and repurposing it so it's actually focused on doing what it's supposed to do and not spying on U.S. citizens. There's not a whole lot of other answers than to clean house. As Durham said, this is a long process in terms of this whole process. And he's really worried about, we mentioned that. In fact, the matter is, it is a long process, but you can't fix this problem through retraining. You have to fix it by firing people and bringing people in who are actually, when they raise their hand, they put their hand on the Bible and they raise their hand and they swear allegiance to the United States, that they understand there's a Bill of Rights that they have to follow. And the end just doesn't justify the means in terms of just going after people based on, I don't really think I want that person to be president. which is how this entire investigation has been run. And quite honestly, I'm sick to death of it. It is garbage. Let's see what we have. Unless it's fair across the board, it won't work. Sean, you're right. It has to be fair across the board. You see, this isn't about setting up a system that allows that you say, okay, well, we'll fire their people and we'll bring in our people and we'll just use it against them. This is about setting up a system that maintains the blindfold that's supposed to be on Lady Justice. And they don't have a blindfold. Their blindfold it's got big holes in it. And so they say, well, gee, Antifa violence is okay. Nothing to see here. But we're going to go and we're going to we're going to prosecute to beyond the fullest extent of the law. We're going to expand the law without congressional approval. We're going to expand the law to deal with J6 protesters. So yeah, it has to be evenly dealt with. Maria, I think the one thing about Durham, and I will tell you, I really liked, I would encourage you if you have not done this, and I was going to include this in this video, but I chose not to. But the very beginning of his testimony, when when he's saying there, he gives his statement. And this is after Jim Jordan gives his initial statement. It's after Jerry Nadler gives whatever he gave, which was just talking about embarrassment. But he gives his statement. And I really thought he was very well put together, and he did a good job of laying out the problems. I think part of the challenge is we're disappointed in the Durham report because the fact of the matter is he viewed his job as being very narrow. And special prosecutors like Jack Smith, who's going after President Trump on the classified documents, they basically say, oh, we're special counsel. We can do whatever we want to do. And he instead focused on what he thought he was supposed to do, which was find out what went wrong at the FBI and what the origins of all this was. And so he basically came down very clearly and discovered that the origins were the Clinton campaign. The thing was invalid from the beginning, and it drives the Democrats nuts because that's what happened. We're going to have a video coming out a little bit later. It's a fixed video. It's not a live stream. And Maria, I would encourage you to take a look at it. David Potter's doing it for us. And it deals with the exchange between Steve Cohen, representative from Memphis in Tennessee, and Durham. And Cohen just kind of goes nuts and starts yelling and screaming. And it's kind of just embarrassing for Cohen. But Durham gives an answer at the end of that exchange that I'm not, that says, well, how do you sleep at night, essentially was the question, and gives an answer that I really found comfort in. And I think that that's something that you might want to check out. You have to stick to the end of the video. The video is only about it'll be less than 5 minutes. But it'll be coming up this afternoon, or later this evening. So pay attention to that and grab that video because I think we learn a lot about Durham's character in his answer to Representative Cohen. And listen, we were disappointed in this report, as I read, and I'm not going to redo it because I blew my chance without having the volume on. But we were very concerned that the report doesn't give answers to how to fix it. And I think Durham answers the reason why he didn't is because he doesn't know how to fix it. And so we were retrievably broken because when you put processes in place to fix something that people choose to ignore because you got the wrong people in place, no system can defeat a people who are designed, who are so hell-bent on accomplishing a mission. And the mission was take down Trump, take down anybody who's MAGA, take down anybody who's Republican, for that matter. That was their mission. Given that, you can't put systems in place that will make them be honest. And that's the problem with this. Let's look at what else we have in terms of questions. I agree 100%. This is Marie again. I agree 100% with everything Jim Jordan says. The whole post has been messed up from the beginning, even to the sound. Yeah, I guess I messed up my post, but sorry about that. Anyhow, I'm gonna get off on that. Apologize for the mess up, but stay tuned. We'll do better tomorrow. Bye.